Hello and welcome to a video all about the 2002 animated Disney film Treasure Planet and how its gender politics are kinda whack, but also how they aren't? Look, hopefully that'll make a little more sense by the end. And this is also, belatedly, May's Patreon community video, which means the topic was chosen by my supporters on Patreon. There's one of these every other month, so if you want to help pick something for me to write about, consider joining up through the link in the description. It's kind of like you're giving me homework and paying me for it. But in case you're not familiar, Treasure Planet is a sci-fi adaptation of Robert Louis Stevenson's 1883 novel Treasure Island, with a surprisingly stacked cast, which tells the classic story of boy meets pirate, pirate dies off, boy gets map, boy meets crew, cyborg leads mutiny, boy finds treasure, cyborg is redeemed, crew returns home, boy lets cyborg escape. It's also squarely a coming-of-age story. We follow protagonist Jim Hawkins, who's about 17 in this version, as he goes from a delinquent to an adult, and not just any adult, but a man. This transition can be seen in a comparison of the film's two sky surfer sequences. The first one happens near the film's opening. It's how we're introduced to the teenage Hawkins. Throughout this sequence, we're located in some sort of vaguely industrial environment. It's clear that he's trespassing, even before he gets caught and dragged back to his mother.
Mrs. Hawkins.
Jim!
Ooh. This is bad, the film says. It's impulsive pleasure-seeking. By doing this, Jim is shirking his duty, both to his mother and, as the film would have us believe, to his society. You don't just get arrested for no reason, after all. At least not in a Disney movie. This, then, is childish. Jim isn't being a man here, he's being a boy, and the takeaway here is that he should know better. Toward the film's end, the sequence is mirrored. Jim has to jury-rig a sky surfer in order to save the crew from the planet's destruction, and save them he does by carving, gnarly style. The physical action he takes here is the same as at that earlier moment, but the difference in context turns this performance into a positive one, an adult one. Jim's not doing this for fun, to goof off. Like a reverse Amogus, he's doing it to save his crewmates' lives. The danger this time is heightened, and now Jim's running towards his problems, not away from them. The contrast is obvious and intentional. What once signified childishness now signifies adulthood, and not just any adulthood. Masculinity is a nebulous thing at the best of times, but I think it's fair to say that standing up to danger, putting oneself in harm's way to protect one's own, replacing fun with duty are all markers commonly associated with it. The film agrees. It's shortly after this feat that the triumphant Jim enlists in the Interstellar Academy, and when he returns home, it's in what appears to be some form of naval dress uniform. Jim has grown up, not merely into an adult, but into a man. But how did this change come about?
So this tweet is going wild on my Twitter right now, personally.
The left doesn't care to give much of any advice to young men.
What we see here is that favorite topic of leftist discourse, the power of a role model. John Silver, the ship's cook, takes Jim under his wing. It's because of this connection that Jim becomes the man we later see, and it's because Jim lacked such a masculine role model previously that he hadn't begun this process already. That's not me speculating, by the way. The film makes it very clear.
Your father not the teaching sort?
No. He was more the taking off and never coming back sort.
Jim is a kid. Jim is a problem kid because he had no dad to teach him masculinity, to induct him into the role of man. Now he does. He has a replacement father to do just this. Again, the film is not subtle with this, and if Treasure Planet's masculinity is a trifle, this is the first layer. This is the delicious, creamy topping. Jim embraces Silver, first reluctantly, then openly. Silver knows the value of work, has the authority to command others to do that work, but equally is not afraid to do that work himself. Silver has charisma, can charm and lead other men. But he can also intimidate them. He is not afraid to confront, challenge others, square up, and win. He presents as the masculine ideal Jim feels like he needs, that his mother wants him to be. Silver is respected, Silver has purpose, Silver is a man. So all Jim needs to do to be respected, to have purpose, to be a man, is follow Silver, do these things, accept the importance of them, and accept the importance of that mantle Silver seems to fill. This is the myth of straightforward, successful male socialization made manifest. But as with most trifles, there's another layer here. As we go on to discover, Silver isn't really the cool guy he'd been pretending to be. Before he was a ship's cook, he was a pirate, and the rest of the ne'er-do-wells rounding out the ship's crew are secret mutineers he'd had hired. Jim's party had the lost map to Treasure Planet, which Silver had been after for years, so when they get there, the masks come off.
Change in plan, lads! We move now!
Over the course of this voyage, following Silver's example, Jim had started to become a man, but that example and the bonding that followed had been based on a facade, adopted by Silver to keep Jim out of the mutineers' way. Upon learning this, though, Jim scuppers the mutineers' plans, throws in against his role model, and spends most of the remaining runtime standing up for law and order, for honor, things he was not concerned with before the voyage, against Silver. If Layer 1 said, you need male role models to become a man yourself, it seems Layer 2 says, the moral failings of a role model don't invalidate the positive masculine ideals that role model can convey. Indeed, says those positive ideals, once learned, are powerful enough, true enough to rehabilitate and re-socialize those who'd failed in the past. Because, as we see toward the film's close, Silver does step forward, start to become the man he'd pretended to be, by choosing to save Jim, affirming his duty to and bond with the kid over his quest for treasure. Deep down, Silver wants to be that perfect man too, still wants to reach that masculine ideal, and upon seeing Jim walk that path, stick to that path even after learning his role model was a performance, some amount of Silver's own belief in that ideal is reignited. And that's interesting, right? Might this be the elusive positive masculinity? It seems like Treasure Planet is saying there is a transcendent, heroic masculinity to be found in homosocial bonding that opposes and is opposed to selfishness, betrayal, needless violence, and so on. An ideal of masculinity powerful enough and true enough that it can win back the bad guys, the pirates, the toxic men. Have we finally found positive masculinity, that much theorized concept, in the depths of a 20-year-old box office bomb? That might be where I'd steer this essay if I were lazier. People like this film. People like attempts to conceptualize positive masculinity. This would be a crowd-pleasing ending, but no. The film is interested in masculinity, but not in these terms. Not positive masculinity versus toxic masculinity, more masculinity versus immaturity. That focus is broadly inherited from the film's source material, from Treasure Island, which pitted the distinguished British gentleman, the Squire, Dr. Livesey, Captain Smollett, against the thoroughly immature pirates. Treasure Planet's crews spoken about the so-called 70-30 law they followed while designing for the film, meaning roughly 70% of the film's look came from traditional picture book art styles, and only 30% from a more sci-fi direction. And there's a similar balance of old versus new when it comes to the film's story. The books Squire and Doctor are morphed together into Delbert Doppler, Israel Hands becomes Mr. Scroop, and so on, but the gentlemen remain gentlemen, and the pirates remain not. This Jim and this Silver move around and between them in different ways, but the sides, the categories, remain roughly the same. The film also preserves fairly closely the characterization of the captain. In Treasure Island, Captain Alexander Smollett is a man's man. In a story to whose character's masculinity denotes competence and authority, Smollett is uniformly admired as peak fella. But Smollett's role leads us to another truth about the ideals of Stevenson's book and the film that's adapting it. Upon his party's escape from the mutineers, the first thing Smollett does in their makeshift shelter is climb the roof and fly the Union Jack. Consider also his counter-offer to Silver, after the latter has attempted to force the captain's party to surrender. If you'll come up one by one, unarmed, I'll engage to clap you all in irons and take you home to a fair trial in England. If you won't, my name is Alexander Smollett, I've flown my sovereign's colours, and I'll see you all to Davy Jones. Treasure Island is an imperial masculinity, and while those surface-level markers of this masculinity's nationalistic, militaristic character didn't make it into the sci-fi version, the story beats and characterizations that original masculinity gave rise to in Stevenson's book are adapted, often straightforwardly. So to be a man is still to act like an officer, to be a good member of the hierarchy, even if now the extent of that hierarchy beyond the ship is kept vague. Bearing this in mind gives us another model for understanding Jim and Silver's journey into and around manhood then, one less positive than that first impression. The Silver that Jim becomes attached to, that slots neatly into his missing dad trauma hole, that guides him through this homosocial away together space, represents that hierarchy, is on the surface a well-functioning cog in this ship and in this society. So the point isn't that this new masculine ideal Jim embraces is some pure, undiluted thing, so strong and right that it's able to inspire both him and Silver despite the false nature of the bond that birthed it. No, Jim's masculinity here isn't transcendent, it's normative. His socialization was kickstarted by that bond with Silver in his good guy persona, but at this stage, the ideal Silver represents to him is normative. Jim isn't just embracing Silver here, learning to prize some independent, organic masculinity. There's also an indirect embracing of the first mate Arrow, the captain, and that ill-defined society they represent, that via his mother, Jim is trying to satisfy. Again, the film's happy ending sees the now mature Jim turn up in some type of military dress uniform, to the delight of his mother. Layer 2 of that trifle might hold that there are powerful masculine ideals, attractive enough to transform in the right conditions any man currently outside of their bounds, old or young, but these ideals are not novel, unconditioned, inherent within men. They come from outside, from institutions, from the representatives of those institutions, and from society's consensus. Whether you're a little late or a lot late in doing so, becoming the adult, becoming the man society wants you to be, is possible and is good. That would seem to be the takeaway here, the headline of Treasure Planet's masculinity. I don't want to suggest that there's nothing beyond that here. I think it is the case that the specifics of how those ideals are embraced, and maybe to a limited degree, the specifics of those ideals themselves, are up for negotiation. See the centrality and relative emotional honesty of the Jim Silver bond, but the basic presence and centrality of those ideals is not. And that's that. Or it would be, but there's a fly in the ointment. Unlike in Treasure Island, the name of that daring, determined captain of the ship is not Alexander Smollett. No, in Treasure Planet, it's Amelia. The film's ultimate symbol of normative masculinity, of authority, hierarchy, forbearance, adventure, self-sacrifice, heroism, and implicitly empire, is a woman. This then takes us to the secret, fruity third layer of the trifle, because that's not it. There is a layer of instability threatening to undermine utterly that aforementioned, fairly straightforward model of masculinity, with the most interesting part being that the film doesn't even seem aware this layer exists. It's not hard to surmise why Captain Alexander Smollett became Captain Amelia Smollett in this version of the story. There are not many women in Stevenson's original. There's one, again, Jim's mum, and for a 21st century reimagining of the tale, even one made by Disney, having the only female character be our protagonist's mother, a figure we'd only see at the very start and very end, that wouldn't have gone down well, or from the mouse's perspective, it would have further limited the film's target audience. So to make the film a little more female, to be able to add a love story in without getting all political about it, the captain became a cat girl. That seems to be why this gender swap occurred, but there is a level of thematic fallout from this choice which complicates things, because the sausage fest quality of the original wasn't just a relic of a more patriarchal time, it was kind of the point. The book's original subtitle was A Story for Boys, after all. In literary critic Bradley Dean's reading of the novel, the overwhelming maleness is anything but incidental. Life in Treasure Island is experienced as a, quote, game of masculine self-fashioning. It's a story where characters strive constantly for a better manhood than their rivals, one governed by essentially masculine rules of play which measure manhood. That is, it's not a story about pirates and treasure that happens to be overwhelmingly male, it's a story about boyhood, about masculinity, which happens to be about pirates and treasure. Dean writes, Skeleton Island is a playground, divorced from the ordinary world and its ordinary values, where male communities can regard and police themselves according to their own rules. It enables, as Johann Huizinga writes, the feeling of being apart together in an exceptional situation, of sharing something important, of mutually withdrawing from the rest of the world and rejecting the usual norms. Indeed, per Dean, the specific vision of boyhood exemplified by texts like Treasure Island had, quote, immense appeal as a fantasy that enabled and sustained the new imperialist imagination, supporting and naturalizing Britain's late 19th century expansionist militarist realpolitik, but that's getting beyond our present scope. Suffice it to say, there's a lot of ideological Jenga stacked on top of the original story's homosociality, and the altering of this foundation in a telling or retelling of Treasure Island is liable to have a good few knock-on effects. So returning to Treasure Planet, in a nutshell, the Captain gender swap has consequences, and again, cutting right to the chase, if Amelia rather than Smollett is the paragon of the masculinity Jim's working toward, either masculinity has become utterly disconnected from maleness, or we were wrong, and Jim's arc here was never toward masculinity, merely toward a gender-neutral, normative maturity. But either possibility amounts to a radical decentering of the concept, because if a boy can reach this ideal of adulthood without masculinity, can become a man without becoming a man, then where exactly is masculinity left? Thus, the ostensibly simple act of gender flipping the Captain leads Treasure Planet directly to questioning the very concepts which mere minutes ago seemed to underpin its story. The film never seems aware of this, of the implications of this choice. It offers neither a route to reconcile these jarring disconnects, to repair masculinity, nor any conscious recognition of its own implications. It seems accidental, it seems to have slipped under the radar, and the case for this accidental deconstruction is made stronger by the fact that there might be another instance of this same thing, another seemingly minor decision on Disney's part that throws an outsized spanner in the works. There's also the matter of Jim's absentee father. In Stevenson's story, Jim's dad dies of natural causes. Here, he leaves. He walks out on Jim and his mum in a fairly distressing sequence. He also seems to walk with a limp. Again, it's not hard to see why these changes were made. They allow for that earlier Silver as father figure dynamic to be set up, to be made explicit, unmissable. Again though, these new elements put together with Stevenson's framework suggest something more. This father still runs the Benbow Inn, a remote, space coastal mooring point frequented by sailors, but he also has a ship, knows how to sail, and appears to be injured. What is his story? We're never told, but clearly, the most likely answer is that he was a sailor, some sort of naval veteran wounded on duty, and that either the emotional trauma of that service or of that injury left him stunted and ultimately unable to function as husband and father. It also led to a boy determined to follow in his footsteps, who ends up doing just that, joining the Interstellar Academy and poised to repeat that cycle once again. Granted, this reading isn't right there in the text, explicit like the complexity with Amelia was, it does rely on a logical leap or two, but it certainly is the explanation which offers itself most readily when you think about the snatches of Jim's father we see, and the deterioration of Jim's home life. And with this in mind, the ideal of imperial masculinity in Treasure Planet goes from empty to harmful, a destructive cycle drawing in boys and spitting out broken men. Treasure Planet, then, is an interesting case. It builds a broadly normative model of masculinity, of male coming of age, while including almost as an afterthought a few stray details which threaten to flip the rest on its head. In doing so, though, accidentally or otherwise, the film's picture of masculinity becomes a far more rounded one aware of masculinity's constructedness as well as its potential for harm. The result is a mixed bag, a complexity that never quite resolves. Certain layers of the film argue against others, but maybe this argumentative quality can point us to an ultimately sympathetic reading of the film as ever so slightly ahead of its time. Like most people, Treasure Planet has an idea, has an ideal of what becoming a man looks like, but also, like most people's, this ideal doesn't really work, is laden with contradictions, and will only ever be fully reached in fiction and fantasy. It is, perhaps, a credit to the film that any part of it is able to realize this, or at least to prompt that realization in the attentive viewer. As you might have guessed by the fact that it's a month late, this video took a while to figure out. I rewrote it entirely like 3 times. At one point there was a whole page on the links between boyhood and empire in 19th century British culture, so thanks to my Patreon supporters on screen now for being patient. Shout out in particular to Daniel Goldhorn, Heather Long, Ryan Emily, and Weirdy Beardy. And again, if you want to join them, get a say in what videos I make, help me to keep doing this, there's a link to the page in the description. Hope you've all enjoyed this one, and I'll see you soon.